Hey parents, Mr. Lacefield here with just a quick homework help as we go into the weekend. I don't love to do homework over the weekend, but we do have a test coming on Tuesday. And based on the last assessment and couple assessments, I just really wanted to make sure that I was doing my due diligence to prepare kids as much as possible for the upcoming Chapter 3 assessment. So one thing I wanted to make sure of is with the last test, we did a practicing class, which we discussed, and this was their study guide that they then took home to help them practice before the test. What we realized is that very few kids actually took that study guide home. Or that maybe they took it home, but they didn't actually study it or practice it. So what we're gonna try to do this time to add just one more additional step in there is, again, we practiced in the classroom, we reviewed, and they had a practice assessment writing a scientific argument about what environment happens first in a rocky outcropping, which is what their test is gonna ask them to do. So we were practicing writing those scientific arguments, and then what we were wanting them to do after that was simply make notes and rewrite it over the weekend, so that way they have a practice. Now, this will help me prove that they actually did study. They're using their study guide, and as they're using their study guide, they're just making sure, hey, did I have all those things in there that a scientific argument needs? Now, parents, what I need you guys to do, I want you all to sign the top of those papers to say, okay, I've seen their work in class, I've seen where they've discussed, and then just make sure that they're doing the additional piece where they're rewriting it and making sure that they have all of those pieces. Now, since we're doing this beforehand, on Monday, the day before the test, they're gonna turn these in, and that way I can see, oh yeah, you are studying, you did do a practice, let me double check it one more time to make sure you understand how to put all those pieces in that you need for a good scientific argument. And then if not, we can maybe take some next steps to make sure that they've had a chance to practice before the test. Again, just making them as prepared as possible before they take these, because parents, have you seen, now that we're on Unit 3, these tests are not easy, and so we really want to make sure that we're supporting in any way, and I'm supporting any way that I can to just help them be a little bit more successful and try to get good outlines for them and good practice for them, so that way they're as prepared as I can make them beforehand. So let's look at this paper here. So this is the paper that's going to come home. They will have written. All I did, and you'll see here on this side, I just circled some vocabulary words. That came with our class discussion where we were writing in information for them to use. Now, on their papers, you should see all of this. You should see where they've written in and they've put check marks, or where even you've seen me come in and write on their papers and write, this is what the answer should have been, and if it was right or wrong. So that way they have this as their guideline. And so again, we have our two pieces of evidence, we have shallow ocean, and just to kind of give parents a background as well, so you guys are understanding. So when you're identifying what is the oldest layer in science, it's further down is older. So we've been referring to it as a rocky outcropping. I'm looking at this rocky outcropping, I'm seeing fossils and rocks, and we've been studying how to look at the fossil and how to look at the rock and research what was the environment like when this rock was formed. So down here at the bottom, this is what they should have done. So you'll see limestone, which is here. Now this is actually the name of this fossil. And one thing in the question it told them that they needed to do was they're going to use the chart and they're going to use the Fossil Hunters Handbooks. And so the students were using that book to come up with this fossil and be able to say, okay, this is the fossil, this is the rock, so those are my two pieces of evidence. Now, they need to make sure that they link that evidence. So we talked about how in the text that we read, or even in an additional paper that they have that went home that has this information in there, that limestone is formed in shallow oceans. So that's how I can link that. If I see limestone, I now know that it was probably a shallow ocean in the past. Same with the actual fossil that we have here. Now, several kids struggled to pronounce it, so we were even joking around. I was like, hey, the key is that you know it's the right fossil. You can even call it like the E fossil, is what we were saying as we were just talking about it. But so this fossil specifically was referred to as a sea scorpion. So now I can link that evidence back because I know that this was known as a sea scorpion. It lived in the sea, and the sea are shallow oceans, so therefore I can make that connection and again write back, hey, this evidence links that that's the right way. These are the vocabulary words that we did. Students still are not being very specific, so sometimes in their first answers or their claims, they'll just say the environment was a shallow ocean. Okay, well now there were three environments, so which one was a shallow ocean. It's important to say, if the question says first environment, please say first environment. That way I've made sure that I'm clear with my answer. And so we have the rule of, and it's on the rubric that I kind of added in there, scientific vocabulary. Pick out 3 words from the question just to make sure that you're answering what it says. Some student answers, again, we're talking about rock layers. No, it's asking you about the environment, not necessarily which rock layer. It wants to know what was the first environment. So some kids got confused. And again, that habit of just going to your question and finding those words, really important. And so it's something that we practice as we're getting ready to write that first sentence. Make sure you know what that first sentence needs to say to be the right answer. So yeah, again, so you're going to see this going home, and I wanted to add in there this page as well. The test is going to be over this page, or at least 3 to 4 questions, and this is page number 61, and each student in class made and created their own rocky outcropping. So based on their rocky outcropping, they're going to be asked questions. I didn't want it to be a cookie cutter, everyone's looking at the same rocky outcropping. I wanted to make sure kids were still being challenged, and each kid's going to have a different rocky outcropping that they've already created. And so they're going to, and have been studying, how did my layers form? What are my fossils and rock in there? What do I know about those fossils and rocks? And now on the test, when I'm asked questions, I'm going to be able to answer those questions based on this. So this is, again, something that went home. So parents, feel free to check that out and go over that with the kids as well if they're still having questions. So again, hopefully this homework help was beneficial and you guys enjoyed it. As always on Dojo, please message me if you all have any questions. Enjoy your weekend, and like I said, feel free if anything pops up, or if they're confused, or if you're even reading through their rewriting of their scientific argument and you're not for sure, take a picture of it, send it to me on Dojo, and then we can discuss there. So looking forward to seeing the revisions on Monday, and then hopefully all students will be extremely successful on their test Tuesday.